Granny came out in late 2017 and quickly became one of the most popular mobile games of that year, with almost every horror YouTuber making videos on it. But since the dust has settled and Granny isn't necessarily the king of the genre anymore, we can look at this game more objectively to see if it was actually good, or just a cool concept that carried it to glory. And most importantly, if it was actually scary. So obviously the basics: you've been kidnapped by this granny and brought to her house, where you have 5 days, or 5 lives basically, to escape before she kills you. I was actually surprised how much this game reminded me of Resident Evil as I played. Not necessarily with the survival horror or resource management, but more with how each piece fits into a different puzzle and it all connects. It's actually really satisfying. Once you know where each item goes, you can sort of speedrun it, but luckily the game spawns the items in completely random places each time you play, so it always feels fresh. And the map layout is really good. It doesn't take long to wrap your head around each location and understand how to navigate. The grey look it goes for too works well. Everything just feels so old, whether it be the rotten looking walls, the creaky floorboards, the car, or heck, even the 80-year-old granny trying to kill you. Oh yeah, speaking of her, she works. She definitely doesn't have the most intimidating appearance ever. I mean, it was a mobile game, but she does have a good presence, which is important. You rarely feel safe when she's walking around. She can take you down in an instant, so you always gotta be on the lookout. Not to mention, she hears everything. Every little sound you make by bumping into something or dropping something, she notices. But you can actually use this to your advantage by baiting her into certain locations, and it makes for one of the most unique mechanics in this game that I don't see a lot of other games using. Sound is very significant. Alone, I don't find Granny to be the scariest element of this game. It's really the atmosphere that coincides with her. It gives the game such a tense feeling. You get this slow piano music that fades in and out that's just so unnerving. The sound design is absolutely amazing. Having all that tension building up just to lead to your death is the scariest part of this game. Granny is a perfect example of why indie horror games are always more scary than the big budget ones. Since they don't have the money to create the most terrifying looking monsters, they have to rely on other methods of scaring the player, mainly through atmosphere and tension building. It can cost a lot of money to make something look really scary, but not necessarily to feel really scary. And that's what horror is for, making you feel scared. And it's games like Granny that prove classic methods of horror still work. So yes, Granny is scary. Now, would it be the scariest game ever made? Hell no, I wouldn't even put it in my top 10. But that's taken into account PC. This game was made for people's phones originally, before it was released on Steam. So if we're looking at it on that merit, it's probably one of the scariest mobile games ever made. If I was to point out a few issues I have with the game, I would say that the shotgun probably needs a buff. It requires 3 parts to make, yet it only puts Granny out for 30 extra seconds in the tranquilizer, which requires 1 part, and has infinite ammo since you could just pick back up the darts from the floor. Also, I think the crouch spot connecting the basement to the stairs to the 2nd floor is a little OP. You can't be affected by Granny when in a crouch spot. But that's pretty much it when it comes to problems for me. I was happy to see the developers are updating Granny. While sequels can work, they often divide the players more than they grow them. It's good that the focus is being put on the game that made the series popular in the first place. The 1.8 update seems really cool from what I've watched, although it isn't on Steam due to Granny just mysteriously disappearing off Steam, but if it does come back, I'll definitely check it out and maybe do a video on it. So in conclusion, Granny is just a nice little game that's surprisingly scary and fun to go back to every so often. Thanks for watching.